Welcome back to the Filmmakers Blog. My name is Kevin, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Filmmakers Friday. In this week's episode, we are not only talking about stuff, but we are going to shoot some stuff and see some stuff. It's going to be great. In this video, we are going to be talking about how fog, I almost forgot what I was talking about, how fog can have a positive effect on your image. Fog is just one very common type of media that can be placed into your image to make your image more interesting. Media is just any particle or substance that can be inserted into the frame, such as fog, haze, dirt, smoke, anything else you could really think of in that sense. Oh, dust. All of that is considered media. And now why it's so great to have media in your images is because it makes it more interesting. Because light will reflect off of those particle substances and do some very cool stuff. And some cool things that fog does to your image is that it makes your lights appear brighter and it allows your light beams to travel farther. And so we're gonna take a look on how that happens using some test footage. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now don't mind my non-auditory babbling, this is the control image. But before we start adding fog, let's take a look at our setup. I'm using my Panasonic GH4 with a 35mm Rokinon lens. My key is an Aperture LS1 shooting through some tracing paper and the diffusion interior of a 5-tool reflector. There is no fill and the key is also being used as a backlight. Behind me I have a practical and I removed the shade of the lamp so that it's more powerful, giving me that glossy glowy rim on the side of my head. Back to the image, like I said, this is the control. These images are also ungraded and straight out of the camera. I want you to focus on three things: the fill side of my face, the practical behind me, and the black sound panel behind me. And that goes for all black areas of my image. The fog machine I am using is a cheap and trusty low-budget workhorse that has been with me since 2015, brought me through my first two films, Shatterhouse and The Hunted, brought me through Jacked, and just recently this YouTube video. So it's been used quite a lot. Anyway, let's roll in the fog. All right, so now we have a crap ton of fog, like more than enough to feel like you're getting lung cancer. And this is an extreme scenario, and there are not many times where you would have this much fog in an image for one of your films. And if you do, it's probably a horror film. All right, well, let's get this beat back and return to fog. But let's take a look at our three areas and how the fog affected them. The fill side of my face is illuminated compared to the control. You can see that in this side by side, it is much brighter. The practical not only looks brighter, but the original small light cast, or the halation of the light, has grown and exceeded the control. And lastly, let's take a look at that black sound panel in the back. And you can see in our fogged image, the blacks are not black at all. It's like we lowered the contrast of the image completely. Now, are you surprised or are you not? Fog does come out as a white particle substance, so it wouldn't be a stretch to realize that with white in front of the lens, the blacks in the image would be lifted, the fill side of my face would be lifted, and since it is a particle substance, it would also not be a stretch to see that the lights, like the practical in the background, are reflecting off of these white particles in the air and creating a larger cast of light. But we're not going to be using fog in this way all the time, so let's take a look at a more practical use of fog. Now, this is where I let the fog dissipate for a couple minutes and spread throughout the room evenly, and at this point it's a little bit less of a fog and it's starting to bridge the gap towards a haze. Now let's compare this to the control. Starting with the blacks in the image, you can see once again they are lifted. The fill side of my face is slightly brighter, and the cast from the practical in the background is also larger than the control. So having a lighter coat of fog coat your image has the same effects, and more importantly has noticeable effects compared to the control without the obvious use of fog in the last image we showed. So right here would be a very good practical way to use fog that doesn't scream out, I'm using fog in my film, but it has that style of a light haze. Now just off that comparison, let me know in the comments if you are considering using fog in your next film. The last thing I want to show you guys is a final product. Even though the fog does raise the blacks and lifts a lot of the image, in the color grading process we bring all of that detail back, bringing the blacks back to their true nature, and this is what it looks like. While this is running, I'm going to repeat the comparisons between our control and our fog test. Thank you for watching to the end of the video. I appreciate it so much. Give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell, because sometimes YouTube doesn't always tell you when I upload, even though you already know it's every Friday. Thanks so much guys, take care, and I'll see you guys next Filmmakers Friday.
Front row kicking back, old school trash like damn.